Hey, what's going on, guys? So I know it's been a little while, but here is going to be another update, another work in progress video on the HGUC Narrative Gundam C packs, which I'm painting up and also using as a test for testing out the ChromaFlair pigments from Armored Komodo. So in the last video we were just kind of doing some tests, but now I'm going to actually work on some of the parts. But I want to paint up this psychoframe. I'm actually going to do just a kind of metallic-y blue color for the psychoframe. I decided against doing the psychoframe and the armor as two different shades of gold. I'm just going to do the armor as gold, I'm going to do the psychoframe as blue. So I want to show you guys how I'm going to do that, how I'm going to paint that, because I'm going to paint it essentially in the same way that I painted the psychoframe for my Mega Size Unicorn Gundam that I painted last year. So let me show you guys the paints and the process I'm going to use for painting the psychoframe here. So got all the parts ready over here. For the primer, I'm going to use a black primer from Gaia Notes. This is just their Surfacer Evo Black. It's just black primer here. Mr. Color also makes black primer, as well as other companies, of course. Just to lay down some black underneath our metallic chrome here, which is going to be Mr. Color number 104 Gun Chrome. Just this nice bright chrome color there for that. And so having a gloss black base will give you more shine out of your metallic color here. Now this primer is not very glossy. I think you could probably mix in some gloss base from Gaia in probably with this to make it a little bit more glossy. I think, I'm not sure, I don't have any offhand, so I'm not gonna try it, but I'm not really too worried about that. Having a glossy black under the metallics does give you a little bit better shine of your metallics, but I'm not too worried about that. It's a little bit better, but anyway, so I'm just gonna use that, and then I'm going to go over the top of that with some fluorescent blue here, also from Gaia Notes number 101. So fluorescent blue. In this I'm going to mix in some, this is also from Mr. Hobby, from their Mr. Crystal Color line of paints. This is amethyst purple, so it just gives it a little bit kind of, I think you can see that purple shine to that. It's going to be kind of interesting mix there. So I'm going to mix a little bit of this with the fluorescent blue, so it'll give it, it'll be like fluorescent blue with a little bit of like purple shimmer to it, so that should be pretty cool. Anyway, we'll see how it looks, so I'm gonna give it a try here. So the first step is just doing all the priming. So it's a bunch of little parts here, shouldn't take too long, just get these all primed up. Alright, so while all those black parts are getting their cure on for a little while, let's go ahead and get some gold going on these parts. So I am going to use both of the golds to make a two-tone gold, but what I'm going to do, if you remember from the actual kit, may not be the easiest to see here on the manual, but you can see that it's got some of the parts, a handful of the parts are in a light gray color, so its armor is not entirely white. There is a two-tone color there. It's mostly white and then a few parts in this light gray. So for all of those parts, I'm going to use the Inca color here, so the Inca pigment I'm going to use for these. So I'm going to get these all sprayed, and then we'll head over to the other table and apply some of the pigment on them. Alright, so here it is. All of the psychoframe parts painted and all of the gold now all done. Let me show you a couple pieces here. So I would say practice makes perfect, but I'll just say for now, practice makes a lot better. So after the tests, now these parts are coming out much better. I'm really happy with these results. They're not 100% perfect, but they're looking pretty good. So here is one piece that I can show you that I can assemble for the moment, which does have the two-tone gold. So the center two parts there are in the chrome gold, and then this outer part is in the Inca gold. As you can see, they're not really looking all that different. You can kind of see a little slight difference between the two of them, but it's not really all that much. So that's good though. I didn't want it to be too drastically different, just barely noticeable. Now the psychoframe, however, I'm thinking It looks very bright, almost a little bit too brighter than I wanted, but I don't know, it might look fine once the kit is all together. Just these parts, at the moment, I'm thinking look extremely bright. Here's another example of the two golds next to each other. You can see that this is part for the calf, so you can see that'll be a little bit more noticeable. You can see they kept the light a little bit differently as well. The Inca is definitely a little bit darker in its tone, so I think, honestly, I kind of like the look of the Inca more, but I'm glad that I did these in the way that I did with just a little bit of ink on this, because I think the chrome gold works better for a phoenix coloring for this. But that said, on future kits, I'm looking forward to using that ink on something else again in the future. I like that kind of darker, sort of slightly greenish kind of gold color that is for that. So that is it for these parts for now. As for all like the frame and joint parts and all that stuff, I just put some gloss coat on those to get those ready for doing some panel lining. I'm gonna let that dry, do some panel lining, some detail painting on those, throw some decals on this, and then it should be pretty much done. I'm gonna keep it two-tone in the final top coat. I'm gonna keep all the frame parts and joint parts and the rifle and all that stuff in just a matte coat. I'm gonna keep all this stuff glossy, so it'll have a nice kind of two-tone final effect there for that. So that's it for now for this video, guys. I gotta say, the ChromaFlairs definitely got easier after some practice. It just takes some time. You just kind of have to get used to the timing of it, of making sure that your base coat is wet enough that you can get then good coverage with those. I found the Inca was easier to apply. The Chrome Gold, I had to be a little bit more careful with it, with making sure that the base coat was nice and tacky to get good coverage of the Chrome Gold. The Inca though was easy. I didn't have any problems with that. The other thing I'll just say too, on a side note, not about the Armor Komodo pigments, but just about painting the psychoframe in the process that I did. If you're going to use that Mr. Color gun chrome color, I found it to be a lot better the less thinner that you use. So whatever you typically use for your thinner, I would say use less than that. Basically, I found it to be working the best for the best coverage of that gun chrome color is if it was just thin enough to be able to spray out the airbrush. Obviously, if it's going to be gumming up your airbrush, it's not going to work, but as long as it was just thin enough to spray, then that was getting the best coverage. The thinner it was just taking forever to get it to be a good brightness, but I got it to be nice and bright there finally. And then the mix over the top of that, I did also take a few coats to get it to a nice color of blue, how it is, so I think it looks pretty good, but again, I'm anxious to see how it's going to look once the kit is all coming together. So that is it for this video, guys. If you have questions about this stuff, feel free to leave them down below. If you have specific questions about the Armor Komodo stuff, do feel free to leave those down below as well. I know there's a couple members of the team who will check the comments and answer your questions for you guys if you have questions. Otherwise, of course, you can contact them on their Facebook page, or there's other means to get a hold of them if you have specific questions about the product that I may not know the answer for you. So again, the product that they sent me that I didn't use for this specific project is the Shibui color. So you have to try this on something else later. I think this might look good on something like the Lunagazer Gundam or something like that. So maybe something for that in the future. And then the moss green, I'll have to use this for some sort of vignette probably in the future. I don't really particularly do dioramas. If I do one, I guess it will work good for that. But I think probably for just a nice weathered vignette, this will probably be good for. So, alright, that's it for the video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.